Okay, so let's solve this question. So in this question it's been asked that sodium carbonate reacts with dilute sulfuric acid to give the respective salt, water and carbon dioxide. Okay, and it's been asked that calculate mass of pure salt formed when 300 gram of Na2CO3 of 80% purity reacts with the dilute sulfuric acid. Okay, so let's read this question once again and try to understand what is been asked. Okay, so they are saying the sodium carbonate is reacting with the dilute sulfuric acid in order to give the salt, water and carbon dioxide gas. Okay, that means the chemical reaction is given. Okay, second part is they are asking the calculate the mass of pure salt formed. Okay, so we have to calculate the mass of pure salt formed when 300 gram of NO2CO3 with 80% purity reacts with dilute sulfuric acid. Okay, let's not get confused over here and stick to the basics. Whenever this type of question comes, what do? We first write down the balanced chemical equation. Okay, second part, calculate the molecular weight. Third part, use the unitary method in order to get the final answer. Okay, and that's it. That's what we have to do. So let's write down the first part. Let's do the first part. Write down the balanced chemical equation. Okay, so chemical equation. So chemical equation is gonna be, as they are mentioning, Na2CO3 sodium carbonate is reacting with a dilute sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid is H2SO4. Okay, H2SO4. So when dilute Na2CO3 reacts with an H2SO4, it forms the salt Na2SO4 plus water H2O plus CO2. Okay, so this is the reaction. So first part done, balance chemical equation. Second part is comes the molecular weight, calculation of molecular weight. Okay, so do we have to calculate the molecular weight of each and every reactant and product over here? So no, we have to just calculate the molecular weight of sodium carbonate and sodium sulfate. Okay, why? So it's very simple, because it's a given that we have to calculate the mass of the pure salt formed, which is Na2CO4, and the given then when 300 gram of Na2CO3 reacts with the H2SO4. Therefore the Na2CO3 and Na2SO4 are important. Therefore we're gonna calculate the molecular weight of these two only. Okay, so let's calculate. How do we calculate the molecular weight of Na2CO3? So it's 2 times sodium. Sodium's molecular atomic weight is 23 plus 1 carbon 12, 3 oxygen, so 3 into 16. When you add all this, you get the answer is equal to 106. Okay, you get the answer is equal to 106 gram. Okay, now comes the part of the Na2SO4. Okay, so there is 2 sodium, that means 2 into 23, 1 sulfur is 32 plus 4 oxygen, so 4 into 16. When you add all of this, you get the answer is equal to 142 gram. Okay, second part is also done, the molecular weight, calculation of molecular weight. Now it comes the unitary method, but before jumping to the unitary method, let's read the last part, which is mentioning over here that 300 gram of Na2CO3 of 80% purity. Okay, we can directly jump to the unitary method when it is 100% pure, but over here it is given that it is only 80% pure. So what do? Okay, so very simple. We have to calculate the actual weight of Na2CO3 in 300 gram. Okay, so actual weight of Na2CO3 in 300 gram of Na2CO3 with 80% purity. Okay. So sir, how do we calculate the 80% purity? So it's very simple. This is a unitary method also, that out of 100% only 80% is pure. Okay, so out of 100, if 80 is pure, then out of 300, X will be the pure amount. Okay, you can simply do 300 into 80 by 100. Okay, some do, but if you want to learn the basics, so what you have to do, you have to see that if your 100% out of 100% 80% is pure, then out of 300 X will be pure. Okay, so let's calculate the value of X. So value of X would be equal to, X is equals to 80 into 300 divided by 100. So you get the answer is equals to 240 gram. Okay, so sir, out of 300, my 240 gram is my pure. 240 gram is pure and rest 60 gram was impurities. Okay, rest 60 gram was impurities. Oh, we have to focus on this part. So now we have calculated the actual weight of Na2CO3 as well in the 300 gram of impure Na2CO3. Okay, so now we can use the unitary method. Yes, we can use the unitary method. How we gonna use the unitary method? So it's very simple, sir. If in from the reaction, if 106 gram of Na2CO3 is giving you 142 gram of Na2SO4, then 240 gram of Na2CO3 will give you X gram of Na2SO4. Okay, so let's do it. Sir, 106 gram of Na2CO3 is giving you 142 gram of Na2SO4. Therefore, 240 gram of Na2CO3 will give you X gram of Na2SO4. Okay, so let's calculate the value of X over here. So X would be equal to 142 into 240 divided by 106. Now when you solve this fraction, you get the answer is equals to 321.51 gram. 321.51 gram. Okay, so hence the mass of pure salt formed is 321.51 gram. Okay, let's understand this question once again. So as it was given that sodium carbonate reacts with the dilute sulfuric acid to give the salt water and carbon dioxide. Okay, and we had to calculate the mass of pure salt, which is nothing but the Na2SO4, when 300 gram of Na2CO3 with 80% purity reacts with the dilute sulfuric acid. So what do we do in this type of question? We write down the balanced chemical equation, then we calculate the molecular weight, and then use the unitary method in order to get the final answer. So as we follow the first part, we write down the balanced chemical equation, which was this. Then we calculate the molecular weight of main components, which were the sodium carbonate and the sodium sulfate. Okay, then we additional part comes when there is a purity part is there. So it was mentioned that sodium carbonate only 80% pure, so we calculated the actual amount of sodium carbonate in the 300 gram of 80% pure sodium carbonate. Okay, so it was very simple that out of 100 only 80 gram is pure, then 3 out of 300 gram X would be pure. So answer came out to be 240 gram. Okay, so that 80% of 300 is nothing but the 240 gram. Then it was very simple. We have to calculate the by unitary method, that if 106 gram is giving you 142 gram of sodium sulfate, then 240 gram of sodium carbonate will give you X gram of sodium sulfate, and answer came out to be 321.51 gram. I hope you understood this question, but still if you have any doubt, you can comment your doubt into the comment section and we'll make a dedicated video towards your doubt. Till then, keep on studying.